Good morning, students. Good morning to all. And last day we have studied about the problems in British rules. So, what are the problems was there in the time of British rules? So today also just we will remind what was happened in the British rules or the problems of British rules. Next we will go to the some important industrial policies. So industry policy of India. In India have met so many of the industry policies. So industry policies is nothing. So like monetary policies and the fiscal policies, some of the policies have to taken to improve the industrial sectors. So that taken all the policies to improving the industrial sector only is considered as a industries policies. So why we were need of taking the industrial policies means when the Britishers are ruling our nations, so many of the problems was there. So what are the problems was there means the British rule stunted the growth of Indian enterprises. So after arrival of the Britishers, so the British companies are fully occupied and exploiting the resources of Indian enterprises. So next, the economic policies of British checked and retired capital formation in India. So because how much of the resources was there, so all the resources also occupied by the British, and the capital formations of India also retired. Next, the drain of wealth financial capital development in Britain. So all the wealth financial capital also fully drained when the times of British. Next, Indian agricultural sector became a stagnant and deteriorating even when a large section of Indian population was dependent on agriculture. So even so many of the peoples are involved in this agricultural sector in this British period. We couldn't take away the yield because so many of the yield is went to the hands of the British only. Next, the British rules in India led the collapse of handicraft industries without making any significant contributions to development of any modern industrial base. So even when we have some of the handicraft productions, so after arrival of the commodity from the British, the handicraft, the demand for the handicraft is collapsed and fully damaged. So some of the efforts by the colonial British regime in developing the plantations, mines, jute mills, banking and shipping, it is also went to the foreigners' hand. So only the India had to in need of taking the industrial policies. So India is the Asia's third largest economy. The 70 years of independence have brought a remarkable change in the socio-economic landscape of India. The economic development of a country particularly depends on the process of industrializations. If there is no industrializations, we can understand or we can say there is no economic development. So at the time of independence, India inherited a weak and shallow industrial base. So therefore, during the post-independence period, the government of India took special emphasis on the development of solid industrial base. Because after understood the development, the root or the sources of the development, if you are not implementing, it's our problems. So only so India had understood about the development of economic. So, the industrial policy resolutions of 1948 and 1956 clearly stated the need for developing both small scale industries and large scale industries. The 1948 industrial policy is given more importance to the large scale industries, and after that the planning commissions and the governments are understood the importance of the small scale industries also. Then the 1956 policies they wrote many they gave more importance to the small scale industries also. So whenever the industrial policy of India is taken by the government mean 1948, 1956, 1977 and 1990, last 1991. At last industrial policy of 1991 only given more importance and identified the root cause of the socio-economic development. First, the Industrial Policy Resolutions 1948. The Government of India recognized the significant contribution of industrializations. Therefore, the Government of India declared its first industrial policy on 6th April 1948. So, this is the important one word also. The first industrial policy was taken on the 16th April 1948. The main importance of this policy was that it's in India the system of mixed economy. So what are the industrial policy is needed on the basis of the mixed economy? That policy only was taken. So on the basis of industrial policy resolutions 1948, some of the important policies was taken. The industries were classified into four groups such as public sector and public cum private sectors. Public sector means so all the strategic industries are considered as a public sectors. Next, public and private sectors means the key industries. So, what are the industries will be helpful to improving the economic development for our nations? So, all these items are considered as a public and private sectors. Next, controlled private sector, private and cooperative sector. So, even some of the industries is went to the hands of the private. That industries made to controlled by the government only. Next, this policy endeavored to protect cottage and small scale industries. So the 1948 policy only endeavored to protect the cottage and small scale industries because already we have studied in our British rule the Indian economic development or the problems of British government period. So the British government did not give any importance to the small scale industries and cottage industries. But after identifying the income of the cottage industries and the small scale industries, it was very abundantly. So the 1948 industrial policies was given the more importance to the cottage and small scale industries also. Next, the central and state government had the virtual monopoly in rail, roads and exclusively rights to the developed minerals and ore etc. So all the state and central government taken all the rights to improving or like monopoliticians for controlling the rails and roads and exclusively rights to the minerals. Next, the government encouraged the significance of foreign capital for industrializations. But government decided that the control should remain within India hands. So now the Indian on the basis of the last industrial policies 1991 the Indian economy fully opened to the foreign capital. But in 1946, the government encouraged the significance of the foreign capital. And some amount of the capital only can able to make the investment by the foreigners. But all the controlled and importance had to given by the had to controlled by the governments, our Indian governments only. Next, industrial policies 1956. Industrial policies 1956. This is also another one of the industrial policies. First, when the industrial policies was taken on the 1948, whenever and wherever the mistake was arised, that mistake was fulfilled at the time of 1956. So the industrial policy of 1956 sought to give a dominant role to public sector. So even wherever the profits is raised by the private sector, all the sectors are went to the government people. So all the same time, it assured a fair treatment to the private sector. Next, the government would support and encourage the cottage and small scale enterprises by restricting volume of production in the large scale sector by differential taxation or by direct subsidies. So the government the government, after identifying the importance of the small scale and small scale industries, the government have given more importance. And what are the efforts were there? This efforts was taken by the government. So when they are thinking like that, so they gave more subsidies to the cottage and the in small scale industries. So all the entrepreneurs of the cottage and small scale industries, they got more subsidies and more financial assistance from financial organizations. So because of that, the small scale industries and the cottage industries was encouraged and increased abundantly. Next, these industrial policies emphasized the necessity of reducing the regional disparities in levels of development. Even if the government giving the more importance to all the type of the industries, small scale cottage industries and large scale industries, it was just made the identify the problems of the policies. So on the basis of these policies, so it was given more importance to reducing the regional disparities. So when they are reducing the regional disparities only is enough, some of the peoples will get some of the benefit. Okay students, then industrial policies 1956 and the industrial policies 1948 only is have the more importance. So in our lessons we have studied the industrial policies about the 1948 and 1956. Next we will study about the green revolutions. So the term green revolutions refers to the technological breakthrough in the agricultural practices. So the father of green revolution is M.S. Swaminathan. So M.S. Swaminathan only propounded and implemented many of the things in agricultural field. Because even when we have more importance, when we give more importance to the industrial sector, the government identifying the um, reliance, so the self-reliance in these agricultural sectors. We did not have the self-reliance in these productions of agricultural sectors. So the M.S. Swaminathan has propounded the green revolutions and he brought away the more things. So the green revolution refers to the technological breakthrough in the agricultural practices. What are the old method was used in these agricultural sectors? So all the old methods also had been reduced and the new implementations or new methodology was implemented in these agricultural sectors. So on the basis of the green revolutions, they gradually replaced by modern technology and agricultural practices in India. Initially, the need technology was tried. So it was called as the high yielding variety program. High yielding variety program because on the basis of bringing the high yield variety seeds only one of the important field in these green revolutions. So because of the green revolutions, what are the achievement was there? What are the achievement is achieved by the green revolutions means? First, the major achievement of the new strategy was to boost the production of major cereals, that is the wheat and rice. So normally the Indian government or the India only had many positives to cultivate the wheat and rice only. So first it has implemented the new technological or ideological to the agricultural and to cultivate the wheats and cereals only. So India was depending on US for the food grains, but now the India also became as an exporter of the rice and wheat to the another countries. So the India lost of on the other and the India lost of minerals. So many of the weapons and so many of the tools and materials was used in this agricultural sector. Next, the green revolution was confined only the high yielding varieties, cereals, mainly rice and wheat. So the rice and wheat only had the high yield variety seeds. Next, the strategy was mainly directed to increase the production of commercial crops and cash crops such as sugarcane, cotton, jute, oilseeds, and potatoes. So when we have more importance to the money crops, only we can get more profit in the from the agricultural sectors. So the green revolutions also given the more importance to the money money crops. Next, per hectare productivity of all crops had increased due to the better seeds. Next, the green revolutions had positive effect on development of industries, which manufactured agricultural tools like tractors, engines, threshold, and pumping, etc. So, because of the green revolutions, the productions of the agricultural machineries also had been improved abundantly. Next, the green revolutions had brought prosperity to rural people. So, increased production had generated employment opportunities for rural masses. So, whenever the agricultural sector is increased, so wherever the possibilities to increasing the employment opportunities, so all the possibilities had achieved the employment opportunities. So, due to this, the standard of living had increased. So, when the all peoples, or when the peoples are getting the employment opportunity, so their living standard of the people also has been increased. Next, due to multiple cropping and more use of chemical fertilizers, the demand for labor increased. So when the fertilizers and the cultivations and usage of the all machineries, so the demand for the labor also had been increased. So whenever the demand has been increased, and because of that the employment opportunity also will be increased. So on the basis of increasing the employment opportunity, the living standard of the people also has been increased. Next, financial resources were provided by banks and cooperative societies. These banks provided loans to farmers on easy terms. So because of or after arrival of the green revolutions, so all the poor farmers also got the chance to getting the more financial abilities or more financial facilities from the types of banks. Mostly the Nabard Bank and some of the cooperative banks were given more financial facilities. Next, the weakness of green revolutions. So even some of the profit or benefits are there in these green revolutions. Some of the weakness also was there. So what are the weakness was there in these green revolutions means? First, the Indian agricultural was still gamble of the monsoons. So even after getting the high yielding variety seeds and new technologies implementing, if there is no rain, what will happen? So there is no cultivate. So mostly the agricultural people have to depending upon the rain, monsoon rain. But the monsoon rain is also will be acting like a gambling. So still if the problem was there. Next, the strategy needed heavy investment in seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, and water. So some of the rich agricultural people or some of the farmers, those who can able to implementing or purchasing these all materials, that persons only got the good yield. Next, the income gap between large, marginal and small farmers had increased. So even in this agricultural sector, we can classify the two types of the farmers. So some of the farmers will have the little amount of land. Some of the farmers will have the power and possibilities to have the hectare amount land. But those who have the more land, that persons only got more profit. Then the green revolutions also was created the regional disparities among the farmers itself. Next, except in Punjab and some of the extent in Haryana, So the widespread unemployment among agricultural laborers in these rural areas. Wherever the possibilities was there to implementing the new technologies and the new seeds and the new agricultural method, that area only got the good employment opportunity, and other than some of the areas peoples did not get the employment opportunity. Last one, the larger chemical use and inorganic materials reduce the soil fertility and spoiled the human health. So we know whenever we want to eat some of the food, and nowadays all the food also created by using the chemical fertilizers. And continuously if you are using the chemical fertilizers, what will happen? The land will reduce their productivity powers. And in this product in this exploited land, or in this what fertility soil fertility used, or the dead land, if you are producing of the commodities, it will be not health to the human health. So now organic farming is encouraged, but even though, so the chemical fertilizers are used in our nations. Okay students, today I think some feel fever, so I couldn't take more time. So if you have any doubt in these green revolutions and the industrial policies, please ask me. Thank you.